Hi, everybody. This is going to be Turning Barriers into Pathways, and my name is Alicia Franklin. Um, I am making this video because, it's kind of personal, professional, and academic all together. So I started by taking a development course, well, a life development course for my college, my specialist degree in education. I am a teacher. And I was able to self reflect and find out a lot of things about myself, about family members, and to make different decisions in my life. So here we go. So I did call this Turning Barriers into Pathways because it is going to be completely relevant when it comes to my story, as well as a relative of mine, and how this helped us. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about are some of the barriers that I feel are common in many people, what blocks us from developing, from continuing to progress in whatever our situation is, or whatever issue or behavior that we have. And then I found two common pathways that's effective, and I think that it is kind of universal as well. Now, these things were very specific for me, and they were very specific for helping my family member. So we'll get into how each of these helped me and my family member in different ways. All right, so our overview challenge here, barriers. So, one of the biggest barriers is fear. I know for a fact that most people, we get in our own way. We fear the unknown. We are our own worst enemy, and we get in our head and we cause that barrier there. It could be fear from past things going wrong, but either way, it limits us and it stops us. And then the next barrier is a fixed mindset. This is the only way. I can't do this. I don't have this ability. These are things that also stop us dead in our tracks and we cannot grow. How many times in our lifetime, I'm almost a 40-year-old, and how many times in my lifetime have I felt stuck? Many times. So that's something that just continues because life goes on and we go through several different stages in our life. And that's something else that I learned more specifics on during the life development course that I took that I feel like everybody should take. And the brain is just fascinating. Development is fascinating. And if we can understand why we do things, if we can understand how they affect us, then we can make those changes and actually help others and understand others and be able to interact with others in a more positive way. I think understanding there is key. So our effective pathways is self-reflection, being self-aware, looking back at yourself, being able to look at the pros, the positive things, and the negative things. Self-reflection doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think many people don't want to self-reflect because they don't want to find the negative. But if we don't find the negative, we don't find those weaknesses, how do we know to work on them? And also, if we don't acknowledge our strengths, then we're most of the time we're going to stay in that fixed mindset. We're like, this is as strong as I'm going to get. This is as good as it's going to get. And it doesn't have to be that way, which leads me to the growth mindset, which means I can't do that yet. Changing that up. I don't have that ability so far, but I can learn how to do this. The it's the want, the need, knowing that you can learn and you're willing to learn to be better, a better version of yourself. You're always growing. And I will say, in a leadership meeting I was in the other day, this has a lot to do with it. And something that I personally have been struggling with is making decisions. My fear holds me back from making decisions sometimes. Because I don't believe in my abilities, I stay in that fixed mindset sometimes. I'm not effectively self reflecting. I'm not thoroughly going through my abilities and having that confidence in myself. I'm not using a growth mindset. So the saying is that making a bad decision is bad, but not making a decision is worse. At least if you make a bad decision, you can move on from that. You can adjust it, you can change, you know where to go from. If you don't make one, it gets taken out of your hands. You're just stuck there. Stuck, not moving. I'd rather be moving, making mistakes where I'm learning than just staying in one spot and feeling stuck. And this, I promise will be relevant to several things that have happened to me and a relative of mine. Okay, so my personal journey and how this affected me, I'll read what I put up here at the top. So, by seeking new ideas and solutions from various experts, I have learned new ways to reach my goals while reducing stress and preventing burnout. I am a teacher, and burnout is one of the major things that we go through. I mean, it is a killer. Okay, it's a very stressful job, it's very rewarding, and it is what you make it. And I guess that can go for a lot of fields. I don't know. I've been in education almost my entire adult life. So, looking at this, I had to look at a different perspective. And who better than people who actually are experts in this, who've spent time researching? You know, we have several people. I dug into different theorists and psychologists and, you know, different research and things that they have done. They put in the work and then gave me the ideas. And I find it fascinating. So please know, references are on the last slide here. And also, please know that these are not my own thoughts. This is me using, or my own thoughts. These are not my own ideas. These strategies came from experts, but I applied it to my life. And you'll see the references at the end. And then I want to show you how you can apply it to your life. So the first thing is, and just like we were talking about before, how fear was a barrier, the way that I am seeking growth and what I have done is by overcoming that fear. And I'm going to give you strategies on how I did it and how you can do it too. The second thing that I had to overcome was that fixed mindset. I can't do it. I'm stuck in this way. Guess what? There is more than one way to do things. And if you're a perfectionist like me or a know it all to say, I have had to swallow pride, put it to the side, and realize there is more than one way, and my way is not always it. And sometimes there's several. The next thing is that moving on to the more positive, where I had to do self reflection. I truly believe we must first reflect and evaluate our priorities, behaviors, and actions. So you can have your set of priorities and say, oh, I put my family first, and then next will be, you know, my community service or the church, you know, whatever it is. But do your actions meet what your values and priorities are? And what I had to do to reflect is I had to truly sit down and think, am I actually doing what my priorities are? No, I wasn't. And I'm going to get more into it, but I'm going to tell you, as family and faith is one of my top priorities, they were getting less time. And I was spending more time on things that lack quality, which I can't wait to tell you about. And then in the last space, talking about the growth mindset, by choosing a new path. And it doesn't have to be completely new. It could be slightly veered to the left or right. It could be a slight change. Changing our perspective, how we look at things changes everything. That's why we collaborate. When you get someone else's viewpoint, how many times have you said, oh, I didn't see it that way. I didn't think of it that way. I say that all the time. And if we're accepting of that, you don't always have to agree. You know, but again, if we can find that other perspective and look at it in a different way, we can make stronger progress towards our goals. And I will definitely tell you some more about how that really helped me. And as far as in the life development course, you know, we have different stages. And even though I'm an established adult, so meaning I have a career, I've been in the same career for about 14 years. I found stability. I am settled for the most part. Children and marriage and all that. But I got to a point where I am ready for advancement. And it got to a point where it was difficult for me because I wanted to not just move out of the classroom, but what I realized is my passion changed. So growth, right? And I was like, okay, I started enjoying helping the other teachers. I enjoyed guiding them, giving them strategies, showing them what I do in my class because I love it, you know, and I started digging deeper into curriculum and different techniques, classroom management, all these different things that I could use in my class. And I was like, oh, and I found myself helping them. The more I helped them, the more I wanted to. Well, and of course, you know, principals and other people saw that. And so I was put in different leadership positions where I was helping the teachers, but also teaching my full-time class. This is where this became an issue. It became an issue because it became overwhelming. But I couldn't dare tell anybody that I was struggling or stressed or couldn't handle it. There's no way I would have said this. So, because of this, I became stressed out, burnt out, working late hours in the evening, working weekends. Any opportunity that came my way, I would take it. I would volunteer. Is there a conference? Is there a professional development? Is there any opportunity? Because I thought, surely if I do all these things, I will get to a leadership position outside the classroom. But I didn't even know what position that was that I specifically wanted. That was the funny thing. So I didn't, at 1 minute, I might want to be a principal, and then I might want to work in the central office. And I had so many ideas, so I had no idea what step to take, what specific steps to take until, to get to where I wanted to be. So I took all of them. Imagine how overwhelming that is. How many times have you done this to where you don't have a direction and you're just doing all these things trying to prove yourself and you're just not? And I felt unseen, and I started to then feel resentful towards my supervisors, towards the happy teachers. Can you believe it? I would be resentful towards people that are happy, but it was frustrating. I was like, then why am I not? Do they not see all the things I'm doing? And I would just pile more and more things on me. And I had to take a step back and truly look at everything that I had been doing. And I'm going to talk about strategies here in a second. But when I was thinking about Erickson and his theory, um, generativity and versus stagnation. So I think I'm not even looking at that right now, so I hope I pronounced it right. But I'm thinking, if you generate something, you're making something, right? If you are stagnant, you're in one spot. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I feel stuck. But when I started looking at strategies and different ways to improve myself, this is the number one thing that stood out: quality versus quantity. So I was taking on multiple tasks instead of taking on tasks of quality. And I'm going to talk more about that when I get on to further slides instead of making you just stare at this one for just a little bit. But please know that when you're taking on a task, if we can self-reflect and narrow it down, and now I've realized I want to be an academic coach or an instructional lead. I don't want to be teacher's boss. I want to be their guide, their mentor. I want to help them, because if I help them, I'm helping all their students. And by choosing quality tasks in everything in my life, I have opened up more time in my life. I do things for a specific reason. I'm no longer overwhelmed. Now, I'm not going to say this is a fix-all and I have a perfect life now, but man, did that help. All right, so getting over here, helping others with my newfound perspective. So I have an elderly family member, and I feel like this is kind of common, is that I don't know if anyone has a grandmother, a mother, a grandfather, an uncle, that their issue is they get frustrated with their limitations. They were used to all the things they did in their past and they still want to do those. I'm not that old and I still feel that way sometimes. I'm like, well, I can't run as far as I used to, and then my knee's not hurt. Like I have to realize that I'm growing and I'm becoming a different person. My body is also changing, and I have to be reasonable with what I can do now versus what I used to do. So with that, she started doing things that were dangerous. They were very risky because she was used to doing them, and it was more to prove it to herself and others that she could still get out and climb a ladder and clean out her own gutters. She could still but the thing is that she would fall off the ladder, lose her balance, and because of this behavior, there were many things I tried to do as the know-it-all control person. I went the wrong way about it. It was perfect timing when this class came and I started looking up, and again, Erickson and what he had to say about ego, integrity versus despair. Ego sounds negative to me. Integrity sounds good, and then despair, of course, sounds horrible. So I'm going to also get into that here in a second. But the thing is that with that, she was either thinking of how much she regrets that she's getting older, not accepting it, and trying to stay in one space, in one place. And so the thing is, but the key to this is being balanced. You don't want to completely be integrity, and you don't want to completely be despair. And here's the reason why. You would think, of course, I don't want to be despair. Well, despair is normally when they're living a life of regret. They're thinking of their past in a negative aspect, things they couldn't do, things they did, they made mistakes. And then integrity, it could be too much so to where their ego integrity, like, oh, I'm going to do this because I've always been able to do this. You want to have a balance where you're thinking of your past, but you can learn from those mistakes, reframe them in your mind, and the integrity, take on new challenges. Maybe those new challenges are more suitable for your age, your lifestyle, and age doesn't have to be a bad thing. Um, it changed my mindset, and I was able to be a little bit more empathetic and have respect for autonomy. Make like she is an adult, she can make her own decisions. I was there to give her some advice, and I had to do it in a very delicate way to where I'm not telling her what to do, and she knew that I didn't think that she was just an invalid. So, and then encouraging healthy limits. I don't think that we just change things. Changing doesn't mean you just take things away out of your life. I believe replacing them with healthier or better habits or things in your life is the better way to go. So continued actions and results. The reason I'm going to say continued actions because it's a never ending, like you continue through this progress. Our life is a journey, development is a journey. There's never just an end result. It doesn't stop. And this is a family member, so of course I'm always going to be supportive as long as possible. So I encourage balance, again, not completely being egotistical. I can do everything. I'm this and this, but her accepting what she could do, accepting new challenges, and then not despairing or regretting anything from the past. I assist her on checklists and her tasks and try not to control it, let her have her decision. Because of it, we do have a healthier relationship and mutual respect. And this does have its up and downs, just like any relationship. And, I'm still working on myself as well. So, because of this, I love this page because there's so many goodies. I'm very visual. I did put where I found these pictures for you, the models on there, but they're also on the reference page. And the first thing I'm going to look up on the top left, you will see the learning zone model. There's several different kinds, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the other one, we're talking about the stages of psychosocial development, and I was talking about Erickson, several of his theories that we mentioned earlier. And then the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. So those are for you to enjoy. I'm not going to read through each and every item on there, but I called this learning from the experts because that's where I got my information, is from their work and research that they gave to us for us to better understand. So the first of the theories on the top, I have my theories, and I broke it into theories, guided theories, tips and strategies, and then keywords that we need to focus on. So the first theory, Erickson theory, that I talked to you about, generativity versus stagnation, that's what I used for myself. The tips and strategies that I would have for that is guiding others, mentoring others. I want to generate, I want to make, I want to motivate, setting clear goals. This helps me to become more focused. This helps me to move forward rather than standing still, making those decisions, even if sometimes they're the wrong one. And then my favorite that I told you has made a difference in my life this last few months, focus on quality tasks versus the quantity of tasks. Absolutely. I mean, I think about it with every task I take on. Is this of quality? Is this going to do good? Is this going to benefit me and others? Keywords here, development. My leadership development is what I thought about. My goals, my focus, new challenges, and guide is something that I'm going to do. I'm using that more as a verb. Um, so that, I hope that can help people, and those are some really great strategies. I really encourage you to look at the references on the last slide because you can dig into it yourself. I did also put websites and videos for you to look at, and it's some great knowledge. So Erickson theory, the ego integrity versus despair, my elderly family member. Again, strategies and tips. Review past events to better understand, not to be down on yourself or negative. Recognize the importance and lessons from negative events in your past. What have you learned from it? There's something that you got from it that has taught you. And then what she didn't realize is you're still relevant. Use that knowledge. You may not be able to do the same things, but you can go teach others how to do it, or you can find new things. You have all this experience, use it and teach. Excuse me. And then explore new experiences for joy, or as you progress in your age and your lifestyle. Tom Sinninger, The Learning Zone. This is fantastic. I found another video on this as well, and several articles to read. I love this because, and this model is a little different. They also have one that at the end, the outside is the panic zone. And I'm going to describe that here in just a second. So, tips and strategies. You use your current abilities to build on and try new challenges. So, if you're just you're just sitting there, you're like, I'm good. I'm good. Well, you're not growing if you're just staying right there in your comfort zone. So then you're going to move a little further into that fear zone. You're like, okay, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I should do it. I don't know. I'm going to find excuses. And then when you decide, you're like, all right, I'm ready to solve this problem and make a change. You're moving into that learning zone. You're taking on new challenges and able to acquire those new skills. And then it goes to that growth zone where you're reaping those benefits, you're setting goals, you're living the dreams and finding purpose. However, everything, and I'm going to encourage you, everything in here do in balance. If you go too far, you're only supposed to go just a little past your current ability, and that brings you into the growth. If you go too far, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're overworked. Take it back. You're going to have to adjust it. So if you look down here again, it says monitor your tasks and adjust as needed. If you're too stressed out and it's too much, take a step back. If you're sitting there, you're bored, you're needing a new challenge, push yourself a little further. Our keywords here: problem solve, new skills, find purpose, learning zone, and growth zone. I didn't read the keywords for the previous theory, but I'll leave that for you. And then finally, Carol Dweck, the growth mindset. I have her video at the end. I enjoyed listening to her. And so, embracing challenges, praising the process, keep positive. It's always a process. We're not just looking for an end result. We're looking for our growth as we go. So you don't want to be stuck in the past. You don't want to just sit still in the present and too much, but you don't want to be too far in the future that you're not enjoying the present. So it's about growing and celebrating things a little bit every milestone, keeping that balance. Use growth-oriented language, the power of yet. I don't know how to do that yet. I don't have that ability yet. But if you put forth that effort, you have perseverance, and your curiosity, you are bound to be successful. I'm a little over my time, so we're going to wrap this up. Big takeaways: let go of the what ifs. Let go of the what ifs. Make calculated risks and make sure that they are tasks of quality. Continuous self-reflection. Is this in which zone am I in? Is this something that is beneficial to me and other people? And is this of quality and fits my priority list? Praise the process. Keep positive. You guys, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to continue on, and then you're like, this is a lot. I always have to self-reflect, and then you start going on the negative. No, it's a process. We're not trying to reach just one end result. It is a process. Enjoy it. Then use positive and growth-oriented language. I feel like that goes hand in hand. I can't do it yet. I don't even like using the word can't. I just don't. And but I also know my self-limitations. Again, and that's going to go to the last one: maintain balance. It's all about the balance. You can go too far in the positive or negative way. I do want to say thank you guys, and please include me in your process. You can leave a comment, share more strategies. I don't know everything, and I know that I've probably only touched on the surface of this. So please feel free to share, and I will go ahead and share my references here. So if you want to look up any of these or use any of this, feel free. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something.